Um, I'm going now to introduce Paloma Sosaya Gorostiza. En todos los grupos hay gente que llega y se va por diferentes motivos, pero dejan huella en la memoria de esos grupos. Paloma fue parte de Las Juanas durante un año. Ella ha sido actriz, homeópata, trabajando en Centroamérica, tejedora de hilos y palabras. Redención es su primera novela. Fue publicada por Victorina Press el año pasado y saldrá en una traducción al inglés por Juan Julián Caicedo en el 2021. In every group there are people who come and go for different reasons, but they always leave a trace or a mark in the memory of those groups. Paloma was part of Las Juanas for a year. She has been a performer, a homeopath working in Central America, weaver of threads and words. Redención is her first novel. It was published by Victorina Press in Spanish last year and will be out in an English translation by Juan Julián Caicedo in 2021. Paloma.
Thank you. Harutu woman, meaning white woman, is the English translation of my book Redención. It's a translation into English by Juan Julián Caicedo. And I will read from Harutu woman, from the chapter, This Land, Whose Is It? The neighbors of the zone that was cut off by the hurricane, that is, Felipe and Selene's neck of the woods, they didn't think twice before grabbing their machetes and hoes to open up the new pathway that would make the world once again reachable to them. It was just over a dozen people who'd been left stranded between two waterways, as the track linking the two was now totally wiped out. Felipe proposed that the group of neighbors be given a title. They should call themselves Fagayu, the paddle. All of us together here were like one single oar rowing against the current, he explained. The name, you see, it makes us strong. A few days after the works had started, when the once soaked ground had become again dry sand, women showed up carrying bundles and chairs, brightening the disheveled cassava fields with the vivid colors of their skirts and headkerchiefs. A band of young men with resounding drums and seashells formed the rear of the procession. It was the women's branch of the Comité de Defensa de Tierras, the Lands Defense Committee. They were singing the nostalgic hymn shared in every celebration. The song that tells a story of how the ancestors landed on those shores. The group marched forward in a slowly swinging flow, while the calls of the seashells seemed to be heralding a warlike tide. Arising one by one from the tall grass and the bushes, workers' faces started appearing with bandanas drying off the sweat. Some joined in the chanting, others just stood and stared. Then, as everyone started getting back to work, the women unfolded banners that, once affixed to tree trunks, displayed their messages in wide, vivid colors. Ours is the land, it's our life. This land is ours, inherited by right, our ways and customs, cultural heritage of humanity. Land usurpers not welcome here. Out with the enemies of their own people. Fuera. When they returned to work at sunrise the next morning, There was a pile of rocks blocking the segment of the pathway they'd finished the day before. The campground of the Defensa de Tierras was still deserted, and the banners still waved in the cool breeze. The workers looked everywhere, but there was no one around. Those were hefty rocks, the smaller ones being the size of footballs. They asked each of the compañeros as they kept arriving if any of them had seen anything, but the general response was, nobody knew nothing. Indeed strange in Redención, a hamlet with eyes in every nook and corner. They picked up the rocks and lined them up by the side of the road. From that day on, every morning, they had to remove new rocks that invisible hands laid on the road every night. On one occasion, in response perhaps to the tenacity of Fagayu, the rock layers left a message written in big red letters, one per stone. Private property. No trespassing. No longer bothered, no matter what. One more time, they put the rocks aside and went on clearing the scrub. That was how the couple ended up unwittingly involved in the conflict over the lands. It went down as a war of nerves without any direct confrontations. There was the occasional army platoon with hit-stricken conscripts patrolling the encampments of retaken lands, but they never stopped and nobody said anything to anyone. The patrols kept going on their rounds, and sitting under some mango tree, the women of the Defensa de Tierras just watched them go by and vanish through the flickering steam into the distance. Selene and Felipe went ahead with their own projects. What do you think we should put on the sign by the entrance? He asked her one day. Animal sanctuary, she suggested. Sanctuary, what does that mean? Well, a sanctuary is a place where God's creatures can live free of harm, a place where one feels protected, Selene explained. I like that word, sanctuary. I like it, Felipe said, before falling back into one of his habitual thoughtful moods.